everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Benji, and this is the BenObi podcast show, where I interview people who are making a difference in the world today and find out some of the secrets to their success. Today on the show, we have a special guest with us. We have Jon Prosser from Front Page Tech. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. That was too good of an intro. Over here saying that you interview people that change the world. I shouldn't be on the show then.
Well, you are kind of changing the world because you're bringing us tech news in a way that's funny and in a way that we actually get the news properly. So I don't know how you do it.
I really appreciate it. To me, I'm just a dude screaming and making noises on the internet, so I appreciate it.
Cool. So, Jon, to start off, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Alrighty. So, essentially, I come from the middle of nowhere, Ohio. And I've always been creating my whole life, so I guess I've just been trying to find an excuse to have other people watch what I make. So ever since like I started recording on cameras that only used VHSs, and no one was ever going to see what I was making. I was just making stuff. So I think it's a good outlet for me. I think I always would be creating, no matter who was watching. And I used to just do websites. I used to build websites and stuff. That's what I did for a job when I was just getting out of high school. I did that, and I had a couple other quote unquote real jobs where I worked like at a convenience store, and I was a delivery guy for something. I worked at a grocery store, and I think I worked real jobs for about a year, and to me that was enough to where I was like, I hate this. This is awful. I want to be able to make my own stuff and be my own boss. So that's where the shift started to happen, where it was like, okay, well, I really like making stuff and I really hate working. So what if I made stuff and made making stuff work? So that's when I started Front Page Tech. I've had many YouTube channels, just I think every YouTuber that ends up being successful, one of the things they say is, this isn't my first try. there's a bunch of other channels out there, and that's sort of what it was. I made a bunch of other channels before, and it was just like, okay, well, if I really enjoy making stuff, what can I make that I would want to watch? And I think that's what sort of started my career off in the right direction in terms of tech stuff. It's just I wanted tech content, because at the time when I started Front Page Tech, it was beginning of 2013, and there was obviously tech content. I'm not the first dude to make tech, but online at the time it was pretty boring. There was nothing really happening that was in the world of tech that made it fun, and that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to make tech fun, and not just for a really tech savvy person. I wanted everyone to be able to watch my show, because at the end of the day, we're all affected by technology. Everyone, we all have smartphones in our pockets. So that's sort of my mission, was to make something that everyone could watch and everyone understood. And here we are. I think it worked out somewhat.
So why did you start making YouTube videos in the end? Why did you choose YouTube instead of doing something else, like maybe promotional stuff, or just working at a job where you still do video but you don't? What made you start making videos?
Me just making videos in general was just at a pure selfish need to create. I would say, in terms of just uploading on many different YouTube channels. But Front Page Tech was really I'd say that was the moment where it was no longer just about me creating. It was about me finding a hole in the market and wanting to fill it. And that hole was boring tech content. There was just there was nothing out there at the time. And I don't think I did it the right way when I started out either. I went daily right off the bat. And the reason I did that was just because there was no real strategy behind going daily. In fact, there wasn't really a strategy behind YouTube at the time. It was just kind of just put stuff out there and hope people find it. So that's what I did. I uploaded every day, and it was really, I feel like it was counterproductive, because my goal was to make tech not boring, but I was just uploading a daily show that I feel like, if you go back and watch the first episodes, there was nothing really that I was adding. I was just kind of reading off tech headlines. Like at one point, I think the first episode of the show has like 14 different stories in it, and it's just literally me going down a list of stuff. So I feel like it's sort of the advice that I give to everybody. So when it comes to YouTube, I always say, like, people always talk about, well, I want to start YouTube. What advice would you give me? And my advice is always just start doing stuff. And I think that's what I needed, because even though I had a vision, I didn't execute on the vision right away. I just needed to sort of start making stuff and put stuff out there. So that's what I did with Front Page Tech. I just started putting it out there, and it evolved after that. But I think the reason I still do it is because I went in with the right reason, and that reason was creating stuff that I would want to watch, stuff that I felt didn't exist, that I felt there was a void that I needed to fill. And because I fill that every day, at least I feel like I fill that void every day, it feels like there's a greater purpose than to just make noises on the internet and put it out there. And I feel like that sort of really shifted my vision, and I think that's why, no matter what the audience size was throughout the years, I still made it, and it's inevitably because at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to watch.
Okay, so what inspires you to actually make YouTube videos every single day?
You, the audience, I'd say. Another weird shift happens. Now that it's not a hobby and it is a job, sometimes I'd say like not even a few months ago, a couple years ago, a shift happened where the hobby, it went from being a hobby to being a job, and because of that, I don't want to say it takes the creative nature out of the show, but it makes the show no longer a fun little hobby, and now it's necessary. Now it's a need for me every day, where I have to do it. And like, we're at a point now where like, I gotta, because we have a sales team that has the episodes booked with an ad. So it's not just me skipping a video and sorry audience, it's me skipping a video and being like, sorry major company that I didn't do your ad for you. So there had to be a balance where, I have to make an episode, but there are some days, and I'm sure you get them, where you just don't feel like being on camera, or it's just not your day in general. So my biggest inspiration when it comes to like making videos nowadays is the audience, because the company's just going to be happy that I put an ad out there. The algorithm is just going to be happy that I put a video out there. So the video's going out there either way. So there's motivation behind making the videos, but the inspiration behind the videos is definitely the audience. It's just like, if the people didn't actually enjoy what we make, then I wouldn't be inspired not to just continue making them, but make them fun every day, or find a little skit to do during the episode, or just we try to do at least one thing a little extra for the show every day. And that's purely because of the audience. It could be a selfish reason, because I love the feedback and the comments, and I like getting everyone's reactions. But yeah, there's always going to be motivation behind the episodes, as long as we're making money, obviously. But the inspiration is definitely the audience, because without you guys, there's just like, it's not fun for me either.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me, because if I didn't have an audience, I probably would have just given up years ago. But because there's people that support me and follow me, that really inspires me to keep going and to keep making videos. So,
right. And it's crazy if you think about it, like, and a lot of smaller creators, if let's say they have 100 subscribers, a lot of them I hear complain most of the time about like, oh, my audience isn't very big, or nobody cares. But like, if you just thought about 100 people in a room with you that are there just to watch you or listen to whatever the words you are saying, it's just like, it's nuts. It's insane to think about that many people caring. I remember like when I was in school, I would instead of like making tri-folding boards or a paper for a project or something, I would make a video. That was like I convinced my teacher to let me make a video as like a class project. And the coolest thing was when we all sat down and, the 20 people in my classroom watched the video that I made. And to think that I'm still doing that, sort of, except now with tens of thousands of people a day. If I just imagine those people in a room watching my stupid school project, it's pretty cool.
So what made your channel like grow exponentially? When did you start seeing a major growth in your videos and in your channel in general?
We've had stages of growth, little growth spurts here and there, but I'd say the thing that like really changed everything for us was opinion. When I became less fair with everything, where I was like, I mean, there was a time where I put facts in front of everything, and I left it there. Like I just put the facts on the table and I walked away because I was intimidated by people that watched, and I didn't want to sway anybody. Like I didn't want to make anybody mad. I didn't want to make anybody really happy. I just wanted to be the dude that reports the news and makes you laugh. But it really changed when I started giving my opinions, because, and that's sort of something that I needed to do within myself, was just like, if you're not going to share your opinion, and if you have all these things that you want to say, and when you get on camera you're not actually saying them, why are you putting stuff out there? It's just like, people watch you for your opinion. If they didn't want your opinion, or if they didn't care what you said, they wouldn't watch you, or maybe they'd read a headline on The Verge or a tweet somewhere. Like the value of Front Page Tech isn't the news itself, it's in me, the comedy, but also I just wanted to start sharing more of my opinion, be more blunt about it. So that's what I started doing. I mean, there was a growth spurt back in like 2014, 15-ish, where we got like, I think that's when we hit 10,000 subscribers, and it was still, that's when we sort of shifted into the funny aspect of things. The show used to be like a little too serious, then it got just ridiculous. Like it was just, there was too many skits, too many jokes, and it just Brian and I talking back and forth, and it was just, there wasn't enough news involved. So I don't know what kind of show it was, but then we sort of like reined it all in and found a really good balance. And believe it or not, the balance happened last October-ish. It's when the iPhone 10 came out, or was announced, and that's when I really went hard in terms of my opinion. And I'd say like that's what changed my career, was understanding that I'm allowed to have an opinion, and when I put it out there, it started to build momentum, and from that momentum we took advantage of all that. And that's when like my knowledge of YouTube and the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff, that's when I implemented just the ability to take advantage of the momentum. So the momentum was there, and me being able to take advantage with like regular YouTube knowledge helped us grow really fast. But what changed it all in the first place was, I mean, it doesn't matter how many people I get in front of the video through the YouTube algorithm if what is in the video isn't any good. And it was definitely my opinions, me starting to go hard with my opinions. And it was a lot of negativity towards Apple, because I really, really like Apple. Even though it doesn't come across, I feel like, to a lot of people, but I started to criticize them because I like them. And I think it was just perfect timing. I think that, you know, like last year sometime was when we really started to feel, or when people started to feel frustration towards this company at a level that maybe they didn't before, maybe they ignored before, and they finally felt the frustration enough that, you know, I was just the guy saying it out loud. And when I think it resonated with enough people, and that's what really sort of supercharged our growth. And I mean, when the iPhone 10 was announced, we got like 30,000 subscribers in 1 month, or maybe 35,000, just from, you know, the opinions from the iPhone and just sharing my negative opinions towards Apple. Which is why I think, since that was what started the growth, I think that's why a lot of people still expect me to say something negative about Apple, because that's what they subscribed for. So when I don't, it doesn't please everybody, because I think there's a lot of Android fanboys that sort of hopped on me to say the negative stuff about Apple that no one's saying.
Oh, how could Apple like convince you to switch back to the Apple system, the Apple ecosystem? And do you think they ever will convince you?
Yeah. So there's been a couple bites in the last few months where I've been like, you know what, Apple, I like this. And something that, like, maybe I don't have an outlet. I try to say it almost every time I criticize Apple, because I want to put forward the fact that I don't hate them, and that I really do like them, and that I was with them for years. So to reiterate, and just to like, I've said this maybe once or twice on my show, but like, I never left Apple because I saw Android just take off and get really, really good. I could definitely notice Android getting better. But when I left iOS, Android wasn't where I think Android's in a pretty good place right now, but it wasn't quite there yet. So I jumped off the boat pretty early, and I never left because there was like a feature that I saw on Android that I really wanted, or anything like that. It was purely because I was frustrated with iOS. It just became a mess. I mean iOS, from like iOS 4, that was super solid, all the way up to iOS 6, pretty solid. iOS 7 is when things got sort of questionable for me. And then by like iOS 8 or 9, it was too much of a mess. Too many inconsistencies. And iOS became literally the thing that I kept preaching about when people ask me why I use an iPhone all the time or why I use iOS, about me telling them about reliability, stability, all that sort of thing. It became not that all of a sudden, and it wasn't stable, it wasn't reliable, it just became a mess. And at that point, I'm just like, why? Like if every time I'm picking up my phone, I'm just angry at it, well, why would I even continue to use it? And I remember one night where I was just like, okay, I'm done. And I put it down and bought an Android device. I was just like, that's it. There was no plan. It was literally like, it did something stupid. I picked it up, something crashed, and I was like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm just done. And so I really haven't looked back since then. But at least the rumors of Apple sort of being self-aware now, and wanting to sort of rein things in and make things more stable and reliable, and shelving a lot of stuff they were planning for iOS 12 to just make it better, has me very, very interested. I'm very, very interested in just in what they do and what their plan is moving forward with iOS. I mean, if they cleaned it up, I can't say that I won't buy an iPhone this year. Not to just use it as my daily driver, but to just try it and see where they're at. I try an iPhone every year. And every year it's been just the same thing. It just reminded me why I don't use it. But I'm not like the typical Android user where I'm like, you can customize it, it's great. I do the same thing with Android that I did with iOS. I just let it sit and use it. It's just my phone. I want it to work. So if they clean it up, that's a really big thing in their favor in terms of me coming back. And that's what I think a lot of people don't recognize, or maybe they're not ready for, is the day that I'm like, okay, Apple, I'm back.
Yeah, because I've been liking the rumors so far about iOS 12 adding more stability than like focusing on adding features. Because I own an iPhone 10 and iOS 11 is quite buggy, and I wish it were more reliable and it worked better. So definitely, if iOS 12 comes out, I bet a lot of people that switched to Android because of like a person like yourself that switched because of the unreliability. I think Apple could pull those people back by just fixing all the bugs and stuff. So.
And I think they might realize that too. I think that's what a lot of people don't recognize, is that I think a lot of people are like me. I think a lot of people didn't move to Android because of a feature or anything like that. I think they moved to Android because iOS did get frustrating, and I think the second they fixed it, I mean, that's an easy fix. That's an easy way to win people back, and I think Apple finally at least sees that this year. And I mean, my guess is they fix iOS 12, it's pretty clean, and then they get back to like, just trying to stuff stuff in the software, and maybe it gets messy again. But like, I mean, as long as they can show that they're willing to sort of get back to their roots with iOS 12, I'll be very happy.
Okay, so I've heard you like talk about Snapchat a lot on your show. Do you think they'll ever like manage to save themselves? Because now they're just making some stupid stuff, like going back to the old design and coming out with the Spectacles V2, which nobody cares about. Do you think they'll ever like save themselves, or will they just eventually just die and like just go bust or something?
I'm really worried. That's the part that sucks, is like, I feel like everything is right in front of them. Like it's very clear what's happening, and I feel like they could just turn everything around and fix it, but they're not listening. It's like it's like talking to a brick wall, and I'm scared that I'm not really scared. I don't care either way. But like, I think it can be worrisome for Snapchat users that they're gonna be, that all your advice and everything you want from them, that you're a dedicated Snapchat user and you're telling Snapchat what you need from them in order to stay. And if they're really going to ignore that, then like, do they deserve to be able to turn the ship around? I don't think so. Like, I don't want them to quietly just go away because they didn't fix stuff. I feel like that's really dumb for any business. But at the same time, they haven't acted, and they haven't acted quick enough. I mean, everyone freaked out about the design. They tried to stick to their guns and be Snapchat about it. And like, no, it's fine. You're going to like it. No, everyone left, and now they're testing, reverting back to the old design, and it's just like, well, does anyone care now? It's like, you got to make these moves when people care. Spectacles isn't the answer. I mean, they lost $40 million. There was hundreds of thousands of spectacles sitting in warehouses, places that they never sold, and to try to fix that, they released Spectacles 2 that actually has a lot of recycled parts from the ones that didn't ship before inside of them. And I just don't think that the hardware is what the people want. I mean, hardware might be really good. It might go along really well if you implemented it into really good software. And the software isn't good right now, like, at all. And that's what made their company big. And to see the timeline, because I've reported on them since they started, since they were just an app for nudes, basically, and sort of took off. I remember when Facebook offered them billions of dollars, and they were like, nah, they turned it down. And then now look, like, Instagram's killing them. And it's just because Mark Zuckerberg has the reach that they never did, and he can try anything he wants. I mean, stories didn't work in Facebook, they didn't work in WhatsApp, but they worked in Instagram, and Mark only needed one of the apps to work. So that's the scary part. It's like, it's not just Snapchat being Snapchat and they'll figure it out sometime, because there's a heavy time limit on this, because Instagram's doing the same thing they're doing and capturing all their users. I want them to fix it. I'm just worried that they're not going to do it in time and that they'll run out of money.
Yeah, because I think also with the Spectacles version 2, I think it's quite dumb that everybody complained about the price because it was like $130 or whatever, and they actually raised the price for the new generation.
Yeah, by like $20 more dollars.
Yeah, it would have made more sense to, like, if they did release a version 2, to actually make it cheaper, because then it might have sold more. But I honestly don't think anybody's going to buy these new Spectacles, and I think I'm a daily Snapchat user, and I actually hope Snapchat manages to fix everything and go back to being the Snapchat they used to be, and being one of the best social media apps on the App Store and on the Google Play Store and stuff. So I don't know, maybe one day they will save themselves, maybe they won't. We'll just have to wait and
They've
see,
laid off so many people now, and
yeah,
I mean, they're doing what they can with the limited resources they have, but like at the same time, your resources are limited because you're losing money because you're not making the right move. So I just don't know what else they need to show them that they need to act like really quickly and make the right moves, or they won't be around. I think that, if Instagram wasn't around, or if the Instagram that we have now wasn't around, the one that copied Snapchat, they'd have a lot more time, but they don't have that much time now because the pressure's on directly, because Instagram's there and it's an option for people to just jump ship. And at this point, why wouldn't you? Like, it has all the features you liked about Instagram, and there's more people there. So like, there's really no reason that you shouldn't jump ship. I feel like it's the really dedicated Snapchat users right now that are still there, but like, how long are they going to stick around?
Okay, so what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? I know it's died down a bit, but like, have you looked into it? Do you know what it is? Do you know, like, what are your thoughts on it?
So, yeah, I know what it is, and I'm pretty familiar with it. We didn't report, I don't think we reported really about any of it on Front Page Tech, and it's not because I knew what was going to happen with it. It's just because I could tell that it was pretty volatile, just the market in general. I'm not against it at all. I totally get why people would want to invest in cryptocurrency. I really wish that back in 2013 I was mining currency like everybody did, everyone that said you should. And I was like, nah, nothing's gonna happen from it. And here we are. If I would have just mined a little bit, we'd be fine right now. we'd be real good right now. But like, it obviously it's not 2013 anymore. The opportunity is gone. But like the market, it is very volatile, and it's just, I think it's a really cool thing to look at when it's doing very well. But now you notice not as many people are talking about it, not as many people care. All of a sudden, people were taking out a second mortgage on their house to get some cryptocurrency, and just like, it was nuts there for a second. Money does crazy things, and for a couple or a few months that it was like really, really strong with at least Bitcoin. I think we got to see a taste of. I think what we saw was just a taste of what is going to happen. I think cryptocurrency will be a force to be reckoned with. It sort of is now, but I think it'll be less volatile. But I think that's what's required of the market. I think it has to get volatile. It went from like nobody caring to suddenly everybody cares and everybody's paying attention. And now it's going to balance out until it becomes a little bit more stable. And I think when it's more stable is when you'll see, the average consumer dabble in cryptocurrency. I don't know if it's the future, because you need a couple more generations to die out before it's considered mainstream. But I think we had a taste. I think we had a very good taste of where cryptocurrency is headed. I think just right now it's too volatile for the average consumer to care about it, and I think you need the average consumer on board before anything takes off like that.
Yeah, I agree as well. Because like now cryptocurrency doesn't seem as big as it used to, and a lot of people are actually skeptical into going in it because they're like, I'm gonna lose money or I'm gonna make money. It's like, it's one of the many things that we'll just have to wait and see.
And it's not something you can really sit on. Like, people, in order to like invest in Bitcoin or something, it's not something that you can just, okay, I bought it and I'll just let it sit here and become valuable. It's something that you could buy today and it'd be worth nothing tomorrow. So like, it takes a lot of patience, and I think that it's just patience that people don't have right now.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the Pixel lineup? Because I've heard you talk a little bit about it. Do you think it's good, and do you think maybe Google one day will eventually just like kill it, just like they did with the Nexus, they did with the tablets as well?
So I really like the Nexus series from the very start. I really liked that Google was trying to give people the Android experience that Google felt that you needed to have, and I really liked them taking control, because Android got really messy. I mean, it still is pretty messy, but it got real messy. It got like way out of hand in terms of OEMs taking too much control of things, and then like over-the-air updates taking forever from carriers, and you still have those issues. You still have fragmentation, but Google really took a hold of things when Android got a little out of control. You get like really quick updates now, or quick-ish updates to Android devices, and you get key features because Google is actively going out there and saying, this is the Android experience that you should be having. And I think ultimately that's the point of Google products, and I think it's what a lot of people overlook. People can look at the Pixel devices and be like, well, look, they're not selling as well, people don't care. Whereas I feel like Google's marketing is very, very intelligent. So if you look at everything Google does, we'll use Google Fiber as an example. So Google announces Google Fiber. They're going to start rolling it out in the US. You notice that Google has a lot of money. If they wanted to, they could get fiber everywhere. They could put Google Fiber everywhere, and they could get it out really quickly. But it doesn't happen. And it's not because Google doesn't want it to happen. It's because Google doesn't care if you buy Google Fiber. Google Fiber is, if you look at the big picture, Google Fiber is not about you getting Google Fiber. Google Fiber is to get the ISPs that already exist to jump up their game. Is to be, fiber's coming in the area. People could just easily buy fiber and leave us. So maybe we should give better prices or better plans, better speeds, that sort of thing. Google is just trying to give people, or companies in this instance, a reason to adjust. Because the more ISPs that, put fiber in areas or give rural areas internet, the more people can access Google services. And that's really, really important. Like, Google does not care what you use. They just want you to be using it to get on Google sites. Because that's where Google makes their money. They don't care what you're using to get the Google experience, as long as you're using something to get on a Google product. And I think that's what they do with a lot of the Pixel products. It's more of like an example. The Pixel line is just an example of what Google wants Android to be, and it's sort of a way to try to force OEMs to follow in their footsteps. Not to say they don't want people to buy the Pixel line. I just think that their marketing is very, very specific. But I feel like the Pixel line also isn't doing as well as I think it should have. The marketing is bad, but also it's kind of stale at this point. It's kind of stale, and every time it's just another thing Google does. And in order for me to be impressed, or people to jump on the Pixel bandwagon, Google has to like actually care. And the fact, like, we saw the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL, it seemed like just a throwaway device. It was just so they could release another phone this year. And immediately there was quality control issues. Some phones were shipping without Android. You've never heard of a phone shipping without an OS. The screens were terrible. It was just like, and Google's response was pretty much, like, they didn't do anything. There was no recall. There was no like active warranty. They didn't eventually fix anything. It was just kind of like, whatever. And then you wonder why the devices didn't sell well. There was no reason for them, because you have with every product cycle, you release a product, the really dedicated people will buy it right away, and then everyone else is going to wait for those really dedicated people to share their opinions. But by the time everybody else was interested in buying a Pixel, the dedicated people had shared their opinions, which were, the screen is terrible, quality control is terrible, the phone is terrible, I returned it. So why would anyone else buy it? It's just, I think Google needs to really hone in on what they want, and I think that the problem is they don't know what they want. I mean, we're about to see Project Fuchsia, which is their new OS, which is the moment where Google leaves Android behind because they have lost control of it almost completely. So I'm interested to see what they do with Fuchsia. I hope that they don't kill the Pixel line to introduce a new line of phones that introduce Fuchsia on the phones. We've seen Google do it too many times, not just with phones, but just like ditch projects entirely. One year they're like, hey, this is really important, you should believe in it. And then the next year it's gone. They don't care.
Yeah, I think Google really need to like pick something and focus on it, instead of like picking something and just like throwing it away after a few years, because then nobody's gonna care. Things aren't
really great right away. Like, it's okay if you release something the first year and it's not perfect, but like, just make it better the next year, instead of being like, it didn't work, never mind. Like they did that happened with Google Plus, with Google Video, with pretty much everything they've done. The Nexus line, the Nexus tablets, like Android tablets in general. Android Wear, they changed to be more cross-platform. Like, everything they do either slightly changes or is completely nixed. I mean, they just did it with Allo. They're going to focus on a new way to chat. So the Allo, which they announced a year, maybe 2 years ago, is just now it doesn't matter. Just like that, they paused development on it. That's kind of scary for anyone that, like, if you get really invested in a Google product, there's literally nothing telling you it's going to stick around.
How did you come up with the name Front Page Tech, and how did you like secure all the social medias for it? Because I know Front Page Tech is kind of like a name that a lot of people will go for. How did you manage to like come up with it and secure it so then you had that name?
Brian was actually over my house, and I knew that I wanted to make a tech news show. The idea was there, I just didn't have a name. So a lot of my projects before Front Page Tech had Basics, the name Basics involved, BASIX. I wrote a book that had Basics in the title. I had websites that had Basics in the title. Like a website and a YouTube channel that I had before Front Page Tech was called Creative Basics. And that was pretty scary, because when I was thinking of names, I was going to implement the Basics name. I forget like the list of names that I had. I wish I still had, because I wrote them down as I was thinking of them. I wish I had the names that Front Page Tech almost had, because they were all really, really bad. I'm really, really bad at naming stuff. It just it really happened randomly. I was just to think of like Brian. I remember Brian said the words, okay, what explains itself? What reminds you of news and technology in one thing? And that's when I thought like, oh, the front page of a newspaper and tech. And then that's what made me think of Front Page Tech. And I said it to Brian, and like, I didn't know it was good. I just said, what about Front Page Tech? And Brian was like, that's it. And I remember as soon as I got the name, the first stage of panic happens where you start Googling to see if anybody else has it. Nobody had it. So that went on to my second stage of panic, which was buy all the things. So I bought the domain and got the YouTube channel and all that stuff. I got the name pretty much handled. And then I didn't actually copyright the name until I had money to do so. So it was a while after Front Page Tech. It wasn't even like, not just that I had when I had the money to, but when I realized it was going to be a problem that I was going to need to copyright the name. So I mean, now obviously it's all ours, but that was before. Like, I didn't do that before my business sense sort of kicked in and figured out that, oh, this is something that's actually you're going to need to hold pretty close to you and you're going to need to protect. But like coming up with the name was it was really kind of goofy how it happened. It was just thinking of a newspaper, thinking about tech, and just saying it out loud. And then Brian was like, okay, that's the one. And then the panic. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Was just, I wanted to create something that as soon as you heard it, you sort of understood.
Yeah, I think the name is really good. And I'm actually surprised you managed to secure it before anybody else took it.
Yeah, but 2000. I think when I got it was 2012 when I came up with the name. So like right before we launched.
Nice. Okay. So how do you manage to like run a near daily show? Because I know you don't upload like every single day. Sometimes you miss a few days, but like, how do you manage to like run it every single day and have enough content for every single video?
I think that actually plays to me having YouTube channels before, and I think every YouTuber at some stage in their YouTube life or career goes through this, where you just sort of want to make something and you have no idea what that something's going to be. You're just like, oh, I remember like years ago, my thought process was, I got to put out a video this week. What am I going to say? What's it going to be about? And the content would sort of come as an afterthought. It was just, I want to make something. What am I going to make? So, and a lot of people have different strengths. Some people are really good with coming up with ideas and putting the ideas first. I am not that person. And I think that Front Page Tech was a way to play towards my strengths, where my strength is my personality and what I can add to the content. But I do need content to be there first. And Front Page Tech lended itself really well to that. The news is always there, whether I show up to work or not. The news is going to be there. So that's what really allows the content to be there every day, is that there is just content there every day, whether we're there or not. We just got to add to it. And we do make a show every day if there's news. There are days like this time of year is a really slow news cycle for some reason. Like, it's just terrible. And if there's some stories, we could make a show, but there are those days where like we think about the audience first, and we literally have to say, this doesn't matter. Like, this isn't going to matter tomorrow. The audience isn't going to care, and so we don't put out a show that night. Which every time we don't put out a show, we lose money. But it's just like it's quality versus quantity at that point. It's just like, why we're going to put something out if we know it's not going to be good. There's a lot of tech news stuff that you know, articles that you read where I can immediately say this isn't going to be good. Like, no one's going to care, or like maybe there is a story that I know people will care about, but I don't actually include because I don't care about it. And if I don't care, then I can't make you care if I clearly don't care in the video. So I'd say every day there's like 7-8 stories that we have on deck, but we make it a rule to only talk about 3 now. That's just something that has helped us evolve for show length, but also to just keep people interested, because like I said, I used to do shows with 14 stories in them and I didn't care by the end. So like, I can't expect anyone else to care. So we usually do them like a pretty big story in the first story, a mediocre story as the second story, and then the big like headline at the end of the show. like any show would do. I think like a lot of people complain that the headlines at the end and they have to skip to the end of the video, but those aren't the people I'm targeting. Like that's what every show does, even on TV. Like, you know, they make you wait till after the commercial break, or they make you wait till the end. And that's just the nature of what we do to keep, you know, audience retention up. And we have like an 85%, something ridiculous audience retention on the videos. People complain, but it works, making people stick around.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if it works, it works. Like,
right, I mean, like, if you go to watch a show and you know the headlines at the end, but the show's only 6 minutes to begin with, you're not going to really be bothered to skip around to the end. It's just worth sitting around and watching at that point.
Yeah, because also you can learn something new if you watch the full episode.
That's what I try to do to win people over. That's another reason why I keep the headline at the end, because if you're searching for the iPhone 10 or something and it's in the news and you see it in my show, but you've never seen me before, I feel like if the very first story I talk about is the iPhone 10, you're gonna be like, all right, cool, dude, and you're gone. Whereas if I put it at the end, I have a few minutes to win you over, to make you be like, well, I think I like this guy, I'm going to come back some more.
So we've got a couple of questions here from Twitter. The first one is from Life of Tech, and he asks, how does Brian edit so fast?
I didn't know you reached out on Twitter. That's awesome. So I think routine really helps, and pressure. So the news has been pretty slow in the past news cycle. So when we first started editing Front Page Tech, when I first started doing it in general, it was just on a white backdrop and it was really, really easy. I think I edited in Sony Vegas, and it's weird how things have shifted. It's really weird because I really prided myself on editing. I was an editor for like major YouTubers, for brands. Like I've edited commercials that have been on TV. Like I've worked with Toyota. I've done a show for Verizon Wireless. I have editing was like my thing. And that's what sort of kept Front Page Tech alive. So when Front Page Tech wasn't making money, I was editing on the side. So like editing was my thing. And I think a weird thing happened where, because I did it so much, and I think what happened was I edited for people that weren't me. And that made me lose interest in the craft itself and editing itself. And Brian has always been part of Front Page Tech, but it's like, we used to have a website where he wrote articles for every episode so we could, like, you know, target SEO. He was actually in the shows at one point where he was just behind the camera and there was banter back and forth. But the opportunity came where, you know, we could hire Brian full time and we could go. I mean, now we are literally like legally 50-50 in Front Page Tech. We're both co-owners. But the opportunity was just there to hire Brian full time and give him the chance to do this, and he wanted to edit. And it was at a perfect time where I hated editing, so I let him start editing the show, and he quickly became as good as me, if not better. And it also, that really changed our career path too. I think I started to lose a lot of interest when I knew, okay, I'm recording the show right now and then I'm going to edit it right after. And most creators have to do that, so it's not a good excuse, but like, Front Page Tech is very formulaic. It's a daily show. The show doesn't change, the content does. So like, editing the same show every day was a hassle. Recording the show is fun because every day is different, but if you think about it, editing it is the same every day. And it used to take like 15 hours to edit a show. I'd say average, if like you're just being normal, I'd say like 3 hours to edit a show. But Brian has got it to a point where if you let him take his time and he wants to add a bunch of jokes in or like really look and fine-tune details, it will take like 3 hours. But because of the slow news cycle, it got to a place where I was recording the show later in the day because I was waiting for more news to come. And because I was recording later, I have to give it to him and be like, dude, you gotta hurry, because we shoot for 10:30 p.m. EST every day. It's not something that we say publicly, because then if we say it, then people are gonna be bugging us every time 10:30 comes around, the show's not out. But like internally ourselves, it's what we aim for. And so it got to like a point where I was really, really rushing him, and then suddenly it just clicked and he got the routine and formula down, and it wasn't a stressful thing anymore. He was doing it quicker than I thought. Like yesterday, I gave him the show at 8:30, and he uploaded it at 10. So he finished it at 9:30. In an hour, he edited the entire show. And he usually he'll update me as it's happening, like in stages. The show's edited in I think 4 stages. There's like the first stage is like, getting all the footage lined up, just the footage. Second stage is adding, the effects, the lower thirds, the graphics. Third stage is all the B-roll, which in our case is articles and sources and stuff. And then the fourth stage is just audio. So censoring, music, that sort of thing. And then the show's out. So he'll usually let me know, hey, I'm on audio. Hey, I'm on this. But recently I haven't been hearing anything from him. He just goes completely silent to the world. And then the next thing I get is uploading. I'm like, dude, what? And at first I get really nervous, and I'm sitting there and I watch every episode before it goes out, before anyone else sees it. And sometimes we make a couple changes here and there, but recently I've just been I haven't even watched it. I watch it with everybody else, which is a really risky thing. But okay, Brian, you got it. And I press upload, or I press publish, and then I watch it with everybody else, which is also kind of cool that I see it at the same time you guys see it. But I don't know. I think it's some sort of witchcraft that he's doing in the background. I'm not sure what's happening, because I couldn't edit that fast. I edited Front Page Tech for years and never got that fast.
It takes me hours to edit videos, and mine aren't nowhere near the quality of your guys' videos.
I have no idea. I think he's actually secretly hired 4 people, and that's what happens when I give him the footage. I think 4 people work on it at once. He won't admit it though.
I must say the editing is really good, and that Brian does it so fast is very impressive.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary now.
Okay, so our next question here is from Paul Grosclose, who you know, on Twitter, and he asks, do you have any new shows you can talk about, and what's the progress with FPT Labs?
I knew it was coming. So I think that's another really good reason that editing takes not that long now, because we are introducing new stuff. We're looking to bring in Hardwired back, which is our product review show. It's another one of those things where every time we put out a show, we want it to exist for a reason. And we try to put the same twist on everything. So the news is not just news, it's more just goofy. And we do the same thing with product reviews. Brian hosted a show called Hardwired, where he reviewed products, but it was also just really goofy first and foremost. And we're looking to bring in that show back with me as the host, because we have some companies on board that we're working with. So Hardwire is coming back. We have the Recycle Bin, our podcast, which we're trying to get off the ground, which I don't know how, but was all of a sudden number 58 on iTunes. Right behind the WAN show, and in front of CNET, and in front of a lot of people that I really look up to. So I had no idea what happened. So we're going to start putting focus on the podcast as well, because I really like long form content. That's my favorite content, stuff like this. But we make the shorter stuff because obviously that's what people want to see, and that's what we're good at. But long form content is there, but the majority of the new shows we're working on will go to FPT Labs. So if anyone that's watching is unaware, we're working on our exclusive content platform called FPT Labs, where it's our version of Patreon, but it's just ours. It's the little piece of the internet that we get control of. And it's called FPT Labs because literally all the content there is experimental. It's not tech-based. It's all stuff that we would want to make if we had another YouTube channel, where it's just, you pay a monthly fee to get deeper access to Brian and I and our personalities, not just tech stuff. So FPT Labs is literally, it's just goofy experimental stuff. We're working on a cooking show. We're working on one of my favorite series, which is in pre-production right now. It's just called Camping, where it's literally Brian and I, the dudes that talk about technology every day, having zero technology. We've never been camping before, by the way, and we're going to be shoved literally in the wild with no tech, no phones, nothing to make a fire with, nothing but some GoPros. And the series is literally us for 3 days out in the wild, trying to literally survive, because we don't survive in the nature. We've never gone camping, and we're literally not gonna have a thing to make fire with, and we just got to figure it out. And it's literally I wouldn't say, maybe it's a vlog, I don't know, but it's definitely more of a series of 3 days of Brian and I just with some GoPros trying to survive in nature without any technology, without the ability to ask for help, nothing. It's just
extreme Bear Grylls.
Yeah, except Bear Grylls knows what he's doing, which is the scary part for us. We have no idea. So that's the sort of stuff that we're working on. It's just silly content. There's going to be bloopers for Front Page Tech on there. We're working on giving one extra episode of Front Page Tech every week too on FPT Labs, called FPT Extra. I know, shocker, what a crazy name. So yeah, most of the new content will go to FPT Labs, but yeah, we're working on bringing Hardwired back to the public on the YouTube channel, and more focus on our long form stuff as well.
Sounds like a cool plan. Okay, so our last question here from Twitter is from Trusted Texan. He asks, how did you come up with a funny but still informative show?
Wanting to make a show that I wanted to watch. Again, the balance has really shifted. It used to be really serious and became way too goofy, and now putting a structure on it has really helped me. And it's just because it's just the nature of my personality I'm really not a serious person, not just with tech, but with anything. And a structure to the show really helped. I want to make a show that I would want to watch. What would make tech funny for me, but also what would make it interesting and worth my time. So I want to put the facts first. I want to put the stories first, the value first. So everything is split into 3 parts. So when we have a story, there's 3 stories of the show, but each story is split into 3 parts. The first part is me introing the story, saying, hey, this is what it is. This is what I'm about to say. And the second part is sources and me giving just the facts, like from articles themselves. And then the third part is like the opinion and the goofy part. And that structure has really helped me to keep things consistent throughout the show and give the same amount of attention to each story. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is just like, I would want to watch a funny show, so I'm going to make a funny show and hope that other people will find it funny. Because comedy is very subjective.
Also, I notice in the tech space on YouTube, there aren't really that many funny channels
that's what helps.
Provide like tech news and stuff. So I think your channel is very targeted to like a very narrow niche.
Right.
Which is a great thing.
Which is another goal of ours, is to be able to give the news in a goofy way to people that really care, but also, like I said, just the average consumer. Like, that's a question that we ask ourselves every day. What is going to make the average person sit through the show? And most of the time, the answer is just the goofy comedy. That's what's going to make you care about. Like, the average person doesn't care if Snapchat's stock dropped 6 or whatever, 15% or whatever. We have to make it interesting and entertaining for everybody. That's ultimately the goal. Not to target just the tech-savvy people, but literally everyone, because it affects everybody.
Okay, so do you have any advice for people who are just starting out on YouTube, or smaller creators who want to start doing YouTube for a living?
Right, so I think that goes in stages. So first of all, same piece of advice that I mentioned earlier. If you're one of those people that is talking about starting YouTube every day and you really want to, and man, it'd be great if you just had a YouTube channel. That's where the advice comes into play, of just doing it, just start. Because you literally never know, and you never really have true expectations until you do start putting stuff out there. And even if no one's watching, the more stuff you put out there, the more you learn about yourself and you're able to evolve as a creator. Experience is the best teacher. But in terms of just like the average advice that I would give, even to smaller creators or creators that really haven't found their way, a lot of smaller creators, I feel, don't understand their niche or don't understand who their target audience is. And that's what's really, really important, is like, you can't just make stuff to make it. You got to understand who you're making the content for. And that's the best way to grow, is knowing who your target audience is. A lot of people want to they want to add too much variety because they have so many interests and they want to make so many different shows, or so much, the content needs to be different and there needs to be variety on the channel, but there really shouldn't be. It's not 2013 anymore. That's not where we are. You need to understand your audience, and it's the best way to grow. And that's where the whole niche down sort of concept comes from. But it is very, very simple. You don't need to become the dude that talks about a very specific thing or does a specific thing. But you do need to have a target crowd, or or people that you're really trying to reach. Because if you try to reach everybody, I say this a lot, if you try to reach everybody, you will literally reach nobody. That's not how the YouTube algorithm works. In fact, YouTube itself, just as a platform, for YouTube to surface your stuff, they need to have a good understanding of who you're trying to reach. YouTube's not trying to like limit smaller creators or anything like that. They want people to find you because it keeps people, the more creators that people watch, the more time people spend on YouTube's platform. So they're trying to help you, but the YouTube algorithm really needs to understand who your content is for. And it can better surface you that way. And the best way to start is to create content that you would want to watch. Like, that's the best way to make content that you can keep making even if you only have 100 subscribers, and you won't lose interest in it because you're not faking it. You're not just doing it to do it. It's stuff that you'd be interested in anyway. At the end of the day, make a show or make content that you would want to watch, and really target a specific group of people. If you want to make it your full-time job, that's where like you gotta understand business a little bit, and I think that's where a mixture of both comes in. I think a good thing with Front Page Tech was I sort of went in understanding business, and I had a business model, and I never started Front Page Tech, even though it was a hobby for a while, it never started out as just a hobby. There was always a plan to grow it and make it my full-time job. And I think that's really important, is understanding your goals and understanding the audience you want to reach. But at the end of the day, I think we go right back to the same thing. The thing that's going to keep you creating is creating content that you would want to watch. Because if you don't, the people that there's a really specific part, and I think it helps any creator. There's something called the dip in terms of content creation, where it is super easy to see results and growth when you have zero. This is with anything in life. A lot of people that like just lift weights say the same thing. Like, it's easy to start seeing results when you first start lifting weights because you started from zero. So it's easy to see even a little bit of strength or a little bit of results after that. Same thing with a YouTube channel. When you literally start out with zero, it's really easy to see those first 10 people, those first 20 people, those first 100 people. But eventually, those people don't seem like a lot to you, and you plateau. And every creator goes through a dip. And this is very important. The dip is very important in any business because the dip is where people quit. If you quit when you're in that dip, that's the people that don't make it at the end of the day. Everyone that makes it out of the dip, you notice, are the people that made it. We almost quit too. Like, there was a point where we were only getting a few hundred views a video, and I had been doing the show for years, and it just seemed like it wasn't going anywhere. And we just made it through it. We kept making content, even though at the end of the day, we felt like no one cared or no one was watching, and that paid off because eventually we got out of that dip and things took off. And I think that's really, really important. So, like, create content that you would want to make or you would want to watch because there is going to be a dip, and there's going to be a point where you're really frustrated, and the only thing keeping you making content is the fact that you like it, you actually enjoy it. And if you make it out of that dip, it's all positive from there.
Yeah, that's some great advice. So for all of you watching, just start and make content that you want to watch, I guess. Okay, so Jon, where can people find you on social media?
You can Google me, Jon Prosser, Jon, not John. That's what I love. A lot of people tweet me, and to tweet me, you've had to spell my name correctly, and then you still spell John. Bugs. It's awful. So you can just Google me. You can search for Jon Prosser everywhere. But of course, if you want to find my show, it's easy. Just Front Page Tech, search it, or find it on YouTube. I think we established it's a pretty easy name to remember. So if you really want to find me, that's how.
Also, if you didn't catch the names, guys, all of the links will be in the description below. So yeah, thanks again, Jon, for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
Talk soon.
For sure.
That's pretty much it for this episode of the BenObi podcast show. If you did enjoy it, let me know by smashing that like button down below. And if you have any comments, questions, or anybody you want me to feature in the next episode, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, if you are new around here and you haven't already, be sure to smash that subscribe button down below. And also don't forget to ring the bell so then you'll be notified every time I upload a brand new podcast. You can get to the episodes early and you won't miss an episode. Also, guys, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes and SoundCloud. All of the links will be in the description below. But for now, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Benji, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.